How are you doing? How are you doing, Emma?
Hey, what's going on, Emma? Hey everybody, the show started. Good evening and welcome to Honey Badger Radio number 52, She for He. As you can see, we have our special guest, Emma Watson. She can't speak because she is smitten with us. So
She can't speak because her tongue
No,
is all the way out of her mouth. Oh my goodness.
She kind of looks like
she's flirting.
she is flirting, flirting with the
Choking
patriarchy.
on something.
But
flirting with the Doge.
But yes, I'm your host, Brian, and I have with us Karen, Hannah, and Alison. And we're going to talk a little bit about the special event going on this weekend, She for He. So we're going to, I guess I'm going to, let me see, should I do a little reading, or do one of you guys want to tell these people, these fine folks that are here about the show?
You're assuming that
you
I would
can do
actually
reading.
have something prepared. So go ahead, Alison, if you have something prepared.
I have nothing.
I got something.
Prepared. This is sort of a. Then go for it.
Okay. Well, it's just the event essentially. Karen, Alison, and Hannah, amongst others. I think Theron's going to be there as well. They're going to be in Vancouver, having a essentially a one-day sort of panel discussion with regards to men's issues. So this is going to be going on. How long is it going to be going on? Is it for the whole weekend? Just one day, right? The 22nd.
Yeah, it's the 22nd. Well, the 22nd we're going to be having a meetup at a bar, and if you want to find out where all the locations are, just go look for She for He on Facebook, or it should be in the low bar because I sent it to Brian, and I don't know if he put it in, but I assume he will.
It will be if it isn't already.
Okay. So if you take a look in the low bar, just click there. You can RSVP if you're in Vancouver. We're going to be having a meetup at a pub on the Friday.
Tomorrow.
Now, tomorrow. It's probably going to be not. I know that Theron booked it for 7, but it's probably going to take us a little bit longer to get there than 7. So probably aim for 9-ish if you want to come and hang out with us. And the next day we are having I'm going to be doing a speech, and then we're going to be doing a roundtable on the She for He concept, and that's going to be at 7 p.m. I believe that Karen was right when she said that it's probably going to be in the downtown campus of Simon Fraser University. That's where they put all the degenerates, I suppose.
Yeah, no, it's right on the downtown east side where all the drug dealers and drug addicts are. So.
Yeah, don't scare them away. Was that where you'd had your?
Yeah, no, the Simon Fraser and UBC both have multiple campuses, and so when I went to do the double event with the Students for Liberty, that was at UBC's downtown campus, and then the Simon Fraser Advocacy for Men and Boys Society was also at their downtown campus. So downtown campus seems to be the way that they go, and I know that Theron would probably want to book it near where she lives, and she lives a lot closer to the downtown campus than the one in Burnaby or wherever the fuck it is, so yeah.
No, that's nothing to be worried about. It's drug dealers are just as scared of you as you are of them. You leave them alone, they'll leave you alone.
Doesn't
They won't bite unless you freak out when you find one on you.
What?
It's no big deal.
You just have to pick them off your sleeve and just flick them away. And there you go.
What?
What? Yes, I'm sort of in the what place myself. But yeah, so if you're in Vancouver and you want to come meet up with us, then check out the She for He event on Facebook, which should be in the low bar. Hopefully Brian is doing that.
Yes, I am doing that.
And you said you had a reading. Or not, or just.
No. I do. Shall I do it now? I can do it now. While Emma's still here before she loses interest.
Sure.
So
I don't
When
even.
the tongue dries out.
Yeah.
Okay. So this article is on a website called Quillette.com, and it is a platform for free thought, is what it claims. And the name of the article is called "Feminism Blinds Students to the Truth About Men." So now we're going to look at the article. All right. As a student at Bernard, a women's college in New York City, feminism pervades all aspects of the curriculum. As students, we're awash in the pervasive narrative that women are always on the losing side of the gender war. This is ridiculous. At a school where acknowledging intersectionality is de rigueur, one would expect to encounter dialogue about issues that men face too. However, after 2 years here, I have never witnessed students or professors broach the topic in a positive way. What's more alarming is how often female peers display conspiratorial glee when they make fun of and delegitimize men's issues. Last week, for example, a classmate posted a video featuring the scholar Christina Hoff Sommers to the Bernard 2018 class Facebook page. The video had legitimate talking points about male academic underachievement. However, in a vicious effort to delegitimize the video's claim that male underachievement is everyone's concern, a fellow student sanctimoniously wrote that the concern is not hers, followed with an acronym that denoted laughter. This outright delegitimization of male issues was met with many likes, and it is a very common reaction students have when they are faced with male issues. Does anybody? Should I just keep going? I don't know if anybody wants to.
Just keep going. I don't have anything to add here. She's like
just
right on.
Go. Yeah. Keep going with that. Who is the woman again? Who wrote this?
Let's see. You're gonna go back a little bit. Tony.
Her last name is
Harriet. Yeah, Araxian.
Araxinen or something.
Araxinen. Yeah.
Araxinen. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thumbs up. Thumbs up to you, Tony.
Yeah.
Good
Thanks
job
for
so
noticing.
far.
Our
Yeah,
women's.
well, it's like.
Go ahead.
It's like a lot of. I mean, we go through a lot of negativity on this show, but a lot of that is when somebody gets it right. First of all, it's very rare. And second of all, and I mean not necessarily right in an absolute sense, but somebody actually is like, oh yeah, maybe men being squishy, mostly water-based life forms also have issues, that they're not like some sort of flesh golem terminators. It's rare that they sort of figure that out, and it's there's a lot more of this. Yeah, men, we should be afraid of them, and they're horrible. And so it's like it's good to read the stuff that's good, but it's also very difficult to respond to, because as you can see, all I can say is, yeah, great job, Tony. Like, so far it's really good. Let's hope it doesn't go south.
Yeah.
What else can you say?
No, it seems like somebody's getting it. Okay. Are women so smothered by the blanket of victimhood that we can't concede that men face issues too? Isn't the hallmark of intersectionality finding victimhood everywhere? Feminist boosterism can make us feel empowered. This is good. I too love when I am told I am special and powerful. Women do indeed face many problems in society. However, at my women's college in particular, feminist ideology renders students blind to the injuries or injustices that disproportionately affect men, like homelessness.
Okay, Judge.
What?
I just wanted to say one thing. I don't begrudge Tony the things that she enjoys in her life, and I'm not going to attempt her last name. It's not out of disrespect. It's just out of if Brian.
You're gonna make.
If Brian and Karen can't pronounce it, I probably even can't conceive of it in my brain. So
Yeah.
it might as well be some sort of alien hieroglyphics for me. So, but I wanted to say I never really feel like the feminist rhetoric is empowering or makes me feel special. I guess whenever I hear people say something like all women are wonderful goddesses, I really don't like the idea that my femaleness is something that gives me value any more than I should, maybe some raw material to work with, but gives me my value. I actually, to be honest, if I had to compare between someone's superlative, like putting me up on a pedestal and saying, "Oh, you're a woman, you have such incredible, you're so wonderful, you're moral, you're so compassionate, you're so soft and loving and blah 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 blah," it's like, it's this is yeah. It's like it, and I actually prefer it when a MGTOW is just tearing strips out of the idea of womanhood, because it's
pandering. It's gross. It's
because honestly, when MGTOWs tear strips and they say, well, women, that's men going their own way. And it's not all MGTOW who do this. So I'm sure there's a great contingent of men going their own way that we never hear from at all, for the obvious reason that they're going their own way. But some MGTOW, they're very, very, very critical of women. They're critical of women's ability to develop morality. They're critical of women's ability to develop compassion for men. They're critical, and rightfully so. I mean, everything is up for criticism, and the criticism is fair. But it's like when they criticize something, and I'm like, well, I take a good long look at my life. I'm not going to say that not all women are like that. I'm not going to even say that most women aren't like that. But if I take a good long look at my life, I have expended considerable effort in not being like that, and I've succeeded to some degree. So, good job, Alison. Yay. And so every time they criticize, it's an opportunity to feel good about something that I've done right, my personal choices. And whenever I fear this sort of general, like, soft, mushy praise, it's defeating. I find it defeating. It's not an invitation to be better or to strive for something greater, or like in a lot of, that's the way I see a lot of MGTOW statements. It's like challenge accepted. It's like this end of striving, this end of your personal achievement. It's just truncated. You are a woman. You've achieved everything you possibly could just by being a woman. Congratulations. Here's your ticket out to your grave, because there's nothing left to do.
It makes it seem like nothing else that you do is going to matter. Nothing else, like as soon as your achievements are all about being a woman, as soon as your status is all about being a woman, and as soon as you're special because you're a woman, does it really matter if you do any better? Does it really matter if you accomplish anything or not? Because you're not considered better for having accomplished anything. You're not considered more valuable for contributing something great. You're just considered valuable for being a woman. This is one of the things that I guess it really hit me over the addition of Harriet Tubman to the $20 bill here in the United States that's made the news recently and everything. She did great things. I mean, she saved a lot of people's lives. She gave a lot of people their freedom by enabling them to get away from terrible, terrible situations. And it took a lot of courage. What she did under threat of her life. I mean, she would have been killed if she'd been caught. And there were numerous times where she came a hair's breadth from being caught. And she had to be tough as nails, not just against the people that were after her, but against people who tried to chicken out. Because if you run out on a run on the Underground Railroad, if you ran away from that and you got caught, you put everyone else involved in jeopardy, because you knew secret places, you knew secret passwords, you knew all kinds of things that could be, could be used to expose the people who were running people out, and that would have been a disaster. So she had to. There was a story at one point. I read a couple of biographies on her when I was a kid. I found her incredibly inspiring. But there was one story that particularly stood out in my mind. She had to force a man at gunpoint to continue on because he was terrified he was going to get caught and torn apart by the dogs that were chasing them. And they were running through water that was, waist deep to keep the dogs from smelling them. They were going under the water and breathing with reeds when people would get close so they wouldn't get caught and everything. And this guy was just, it's a terrifying situation. The idea that somebody is chasing you with beasts that are trained to kill you, and so on. And I can't blame the guy for freaking out like that. But this is a person who was tough as nails, who risked her life to save others. After she became free, she went back to get other people over and over and over again. I mean, she made her life all about service. And feminists have just shit all over that legacy by making their honor for her all about her sex, just because she's a woman. If she'd have been a man and done all those things, they would have been just as great. There would have been nothing any more or any less special about what she did. But because of this push, because she was the female from history they chose to exploit for this push, it's now all about her sex instead of about her great courage and her altruism and her toughness and the fact that, you know, she put other people before her over and over and over again, and she understood tough compassion and tough love and everything else. It's just, you know, she's a walking vagina. That's probably about the saddest thing that feminists do, is take away every other aspect of your human identity because you're a woman.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at even Stephanie Guthrie and that infamous tweet that started the entire Gregory Allen Elliott case rolling, right? Her infamous tweet to Bendelin Spur, not to Bendelin Spur, to her followers. I found the man who made the punch a woman in the face game, right? Should I sick the internet on him, right? And at that point, the only important thing about Anita Sarkeesian was that she was a woman. Guthrie came right out and said it, the punch a woman in the face game. Not the punch Anita Sarkeesian, not even the punch a feminist, right? The punch a woman in the face game, right? Like, there haven't been a million punch a woman in the face games based on Ann Coulter or Sarah Palin or you know, even Hillary Clinton, right? Like, there haven't been tons and tons. You can go to celebrityfacepunch.com and you can pick men and women to punch in the face with your app. I mean, but at that point, she revealed her entire hand. It was not about Anita Sarkeesian. It was not about feminism. It was everything about it was just rendered down to, yeah, no, this person has a vagina, and that's the only thing that matters. It's really, really gross. It's just gross.
Yeah, although at least in Harriet Tubman's case, it's deserved.
Well, it is deserved, but I mean, like, I think
It's gross because of the reason, but at the very least, it's you're not saying, okay, this is basically a lie, you know.
well, at least it's not like Annie, who is it, Annie McClung or whatever, who was apparently one of the biggest sort of early feminists in Canada, who you know, was around during the suffragette era, who was like a massive eugenicist and a huge racist, right? Like, at least it's not like that, because they're kicking around the idea of putting her on one of our bills. So
It's going to be hard for them to find a suffragette that wasn't racist. Honestly.
And a eugenicist, right? Like,
they were actually, that movement was riddled with racism, and it was entirely sexist. The suffragettes in England were kind of the focus of the white feather movement. So, you know, they're the ones that really, they were I shouldn't say the focus, they were the driving force. They were the ones that pushed it the hardest.
oh, and pushing for military draft in the UK. I don't know whether they actually enacted a military draft in World War I in the UK. Because they had the White Feather Brigade, right? And the Order of the White Feather made a draft not quite as necessary, but they were also campaigning for a military.
Well, by feminist standards, the White Feather Brigade counts as a draft because they pressured men into going to war who didn't want to go to war. You know, so if they count women giving in to being begged or pressured for sex as rape, then we get to count the white feather movement as the feminist draft.
Or women shaving their legs as being helplessly oppressed against, by the beauty industry. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. In Harriet Tubman's case, I'm glad she's getting recognized. I really am sort of pissed what they're saying about Andrew Jackson, because I don't think, like, for the standards of his time, and you have to realize he was a politician in his time, and he was dealing with people who were racist, and he was trying to reduce violence, racially charged violence. And it's like, what do you expect? To have the same values as someone today? Or even if he did have the similar values to what we have today, be able to say that in public. Like, it doesn't work like that. And it's like, but and the other thing I want to say is I'm glad it's Harriet Tubman, because even though I do not like this whole fervor over Andrew Jackson, because there was something that she said that actually really struck me quite a bit. She said that the only regret that she had from her time for helping free slaves was that she couldn't convince more slaves that they were slaves. And that speaks to a lot of this research that I've done into the psychology of slavery. And a lot of people, that last episode there was one guy who completely distorted what I said when, Karen, you said that slaves were seen as inferior, and then I corrected you and I said they may have been seen as slaves, but in some cases they were given more liberties in terms of jobs than their masters. And of course, why not? What do you have a slave for but to work? And in some very interesting cases, they actually basically ruled the empires in which they were slaves. But Harriet Tubman is talking about that deeper aspect of slavery that is really about psychology. Systems of slavery, brutal systems of slavery, do not last long. Because you look at the Caribbean, there was an insurrection, and pretty much that was over with it. Like, because it was so brutal. It didn't last long. Systems of slavery that last for generations and generations, decades, millennia, centuries, are subtler. They involve a lot more psychological aspects than what we really acknowledge in today's society. We want to see slavery as this brutal thing with chains and whips, when often it wasn't. It was much, much more of a psychological kind of thing going on. And I mean, I love the example of the Janissaries, and Karen's going to shake her head when I mention the Janissaries. But it was actually a brutal system of slavery. They would take the sons of Christian slaves, they would force march them, then probably beatings, rapings along the way. You die, you just get rolled into the ditch and forgotten. And the ones who survived were allowed to have their own property. They were allowed to establish their own careers within the empire. Most of them ended up being laborers, but some of them ended up being architects, other skilled professions, and one of them would end up being the top of the political ladder, the vizier. So they comprised almost the entire ruling, governing, and just the work structure of this empire. But they never once thought, hey, why don't we use this power to go free our parents? That's the power. That's the power of the psychology of slavery. Like, oh, yeah, I'm the vizier. Why don't I go free the Christians? No, they never considered that. And that's what I was talking about. I'm not saying that slavery isn't horrible. In fact, I would say that's even more horrible. I mean, could you imagine serving the rest of willingly, just swallowing that kind of experience and just serving? It's like this particular empire figured out how to lobotomize people. And if you're going to say that isn't its own kind of horrible thing, then I disagree rather strongly. If anything, the cartoon version of slavery that is just whips and chains and menacing is actually a dismissal and minimization of the true horror of slavery, which isn't just physical. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. And
Can I?
we can go on.
Okay.
Apparently the stream is fucking up.
Is it? I know that it's a little. It seems a little janky. It could be because of all the cameras. That tends to happen. Maybe there's just bandwidth that's just being eaten like Pac-Man. But it seems. I don't know. Does the stream, guys in the chat? Does the stream seem good? If it's fine, oh yeah, there are people saying it's fine. So maybe it's because we just turned off a camera. We'll see. Maybe we'll try and turn it back on. Somebody said it's kind of slow, but I want to go back to the article because there was a word that was used that comes up a lot when I hear feminist rhetoric, and that word is empowered or empowerment. And I was talking to a friend of mine about the word empowerment because I hear it come up all the time where people say, oh, this made me feel empowered. I'm getting empowerment from this, from essentially this idea or this notion. And the person I was talking to said, well, isn't that just sort of like being inspired? Because I said, look, that word bugs me, and I can't put my finger on it. And maybe I'm like splitting hairs or being a little nitpicky, but she said, isn't that just sort of like being inspired? And isn't that, like what you as an artist like, that feeling that you like to get? I don't think it is, because when people are claiming that they have been inspired or motivated by something, they are being inspired or motivated to act. They are being led to they're seeing something that they want to do themselves, or something they want to reproduce, or some action, or some world that they'd like to see, or whatever it is, and it's energizing them to go and act in the world and do something, or improve at some craft. Like if you see someone build a house, from scratch, or cook some meal, or make a sculpture, or whatever. And that, I think, is being inspired or being motivated. When someone tells you, you can do this thing, and here are the tools, and you have them, and I'm going to show you how to use them, or at least get the ball rolling, and then you can go make something. You can go do something. I don't think that's quite what empowerment seems to be, because whenever I see examples of empowerment, it's like this thing that you're just saying nice things about. As a woman, like, it doesn't have anything to do with your ability or your talent or your skill, but it's really just about your identity. As a woman, you should be able to do X. And
you're actually you're getting at sort of the passivity, the passive language.
Yeah.
That a person is empowered or has been empowered. It's a passive voice. It is something that is external, that is given to you. Inspiration, I was inspired by, right?
Yeah.
Even though that's also passive voice, I think that because we see inspiration as something that is a spark within, and you can sort of look at something and then feel a spark within and an urge to do. Right? That's what inspiration is, or motivation is. With empowerment, it feels more like something that's just sort of given to you.
Yeah.
And just so you're the passive recipient of it. And,
exactly.
Yeah.
And the assumption is that you are being empowered, but before you are given empowerment, you have no power. So first you don't have anything, and then I empower you with a statement. And because I have bestowed or bequeathed my power unto you, now you can act in the world. But it's only because I gave it to you. And otherwise, you're just waiting for someone to empower you. Like, people don't say, I empowered myself today. People go and they seek out things, and then they seek out feel good feely things somewhere in the world, and then they say, that empowered me. And that's the thing about empowerment. It's just, it bugs me as a word. Now I don't mean to maybe I'm being nitpicky, but that's how I see it.
No, it gets a very often misused word. He says that empowerment is basically the ability to do things, as opposed to inspiration being a desire or passion to do. And there are certain degrees to which you are empowered in life, like because you have the tools or because you have the legal right to do something, you have nothing stopping you, and as long as it's you choose to do the thing that you're thinking of, it's your choice. And then there are things that there are barriers that stop you. Some barriers are real, some barriers are because you choose to acknowledge them, like legal barriers are barriers we choose to acknowledge because we want to be part of civilization. So, we don't drive 96 miles an hour in a school zone because there's a legal barrier. Nothing is stopping us. We're fully capable of doing that.
Who doesn't do that?
I don't.
Drive
I don't want to get
miles an hour in a school zone.
I don't want to be the person to run over somebody's kid. But I mean, that's a barrier, but it's not a real barrier. You're making that choice, and you can help somebody. People say somebody else empowered them when what they're really saying is that somebody helped them realize that they had that power all along. And it's a lot of times like it's different from in a situation where you're given authority over something. You get a supervisory position in a retail establishment, and suddenly you're empowered to do tasks that you have to have clearance within the company to be able to do. That's actually somebody else empowering you, because they might give you a code, or they might give you a key, or they give you access to something that you didn't have before. But a lot of times when people talk about empowerment, they're basically talking about somebody walking around lacking confidence in their ability to do something, or believing themselves incapable, or believing themselves to not have the right to do something, and they're struck with the realization, that's bullshit, I can do this. And that inspiration can come from other people.
Mm-hmm.
The big problem is feminists and other identity politic ideologues exploit that phenomenon by falsely claiming to be giving people something bigger than what they're giving. Giving somebody the understanding, helping somebody come to an understanding that they can do on their own, that they can achieve on their own, a kind thing. It's the beneficial thing to do to somebody, but you didn't give them the capability. You just helped them understand something that they didn't understand, and it's not you empowering them. It's you helping them realize they had that power all along.
Yeah, I mean that's just it. Like when I look at the article, and granted, she's writing a lot of great things, but when she says feminist boosterism can make us feel empowered, that is good. I too love when I am told I am special and powerful. I don't.
It only has value if it's true, and they're not saying it to everybody, equally as if that's true, and it's not just used to feel good. If it's a pep talk because you're flagging when you should be doing something, and you're acting incapable of something that you're capable of. One of the best moments I can actually come up with. My gym teacher used to empower me by feminist standards by going to the opposite degree. Oh, you can sit this one out. I know it's hard with your asthma and everything. If you don't want to run this test, you can just go sit over there and rest and breathe and everything, and be like, screw you, I can do this. What are you talking about? This stubbornness, where I might have been flagging before and dragging my feet and whining like a girl, and this is hard, and as soon as if it's too hard for you, you can sit this out. He knew that was how to get me motivated. Don't tell me that I'm not able to do everything everybody else can do. And it's that kind of person is an empowering person, because they look for ways to help other people understand what their potential is, and take pride in reaching it. And they look for ways to help you do for yourself. They're not the person that comes along and like feminists will come along, and identity politics ideologues will come along and demand programs to help you, and demand that you be given easier tasks and easier tests and faced with less challenges instead and call that empowerment. It's exactly the opposite
Yeah.
of what my gym teacher used to do. It's exactly the opposite of how you really genuinely empower someone.
Yeah. No, and it's true. Like with the she said feminist boosting or boosterism or whatever the fuck, right? Yeah, no, like there is people know, right? At least by the time they get to be like young adults or adults, right? They know when they're getting a gold star just for participating. They know that, right? And they know the gold star is worth shit now, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just do. And that's all that feminist boosterism is. It's not actually she said it makes her feel empowered. Okay, yeah, no, and that feeling that's going to be, it's going to come and go, within 30 seconds to a minute, and then what are you left with? Empty hands, nothing, no skills, right? No, you've just been told you're great. That's it, right? If it's not true, then you're left with nothing.
Yeah, it's just a platitude. And when they do it in this context, when she says feminist boosterism can make us feel empowered, I love when I'm told I'm special and powerful. They are just saying that she is great and special and powerful because she's a woman. They don't care about her name. They don't care about what she's actually able to do. And then when feminists go around saying you feel empowered because we gave it to you, which they didn't because these people always had it, it's like they're selling them, snake oil, and when they feel better, they take credit for it, or placebos or whatever. Then they get to own that and say, you need feminism because we make you feel empowered. But empowerment is kind of an empty word these days, because really inspiration or motivation that comes from within, as we were saying before, that can have a much more powerful and long-lasting effect. Empowerment is just a throwaway platitude that you just say, hey, ladies, you're great. Or when I watched this documentary, and I know that this could be a giant segue, I don't want to go too far into it, but it's called The Mask You Live In, and it's on Netflix, and you should totally watch it. We did a rant Zerker on the trailer a while back, and the guys in there had their tongues so far up the asses of the women in their lives, they did not realize how much those women could have contributed to their state. And it bugged the shit out of me because they were just making statements about them being strong and and great and powerful and all this, and it meant nothing. And it did not reflect on any. It could have been a template that you apply to any person that happens to be born with a vagina, and you wouldn't have to change a letter in the statement, which means it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything at all. And I think that while I appreciate what this woman wrote, the empowerment thing, I think that there is, it's not very useful, and in fact, I think it can be a tool used by feminists to say, we gave this to you, now you owe us, because we made you feel something that you actually had in you all along.
It's two tools, really, because the way feminists use it, they're not inspiring people to go out and do. They're inspiring people to feel good without going out and doing as if they had. So they're basically inspiring people to sit on their asses and feel like they've accomplished something, and because they're part of a movement and because they're female. And it's the use of the term, like I said in our little chat, the use of the term is basically newspeak. It's using a word to describe the opposite of what that word really means. That's the political version of the term empowerment is anti-empowerment. If when you hear empowerment from anybody in politics, you should immediately think anti-empowerment, disempowerment.
Mm-hmm. All right, shall I?
Moving on.
Yeah,
Moving
okay,
on.
I should. But thank you for entertaining my ideas about this word empowerment. It was bugging me, and I had to talk about it a little bit. So.
Okay, I just have a question. Karen,
Okay.
what are you up to?
What am I up to?
Yeah, you took off your video, so I assume that you're doing something.
Oh no, but there was some complaints about like the stream not going well, so I turned off my camera. And then I ate a couple hot dogs, pizza dogs.
Do you realize that if you had put that on camera, we probably would have had seen a spike in viewership?
Oh, whatever.
Eating those hot dogs.
Oh, whatever.
Well, if you get another hot dog, be sure to turn your camera on.
Yeah, well,
So that Emma Watson can watch.
all the hot dogs are gone. They're all gone, and
Karen ate all the wieners.
Oh.
I ate them sensuously.
You see that Emma?
You see,
ate them all.
I turned my cam off for the same reason, because we were getting complaints that the thing was slow. We'll see if Karen's.
I licked them. I licked the wieners all up and down their length.
Okay.
Before I took.
Now you have to do it on camera next time. Now you have to eat wieners on camera the next time.
What if? Oh no, yeah, we're probably fine. Hey, look at this. Look at this. Okay.
Oh,
Can you lick her? Can you like?
I can't stick my I can't stick the tongue out. I have to like go into the options and play around, and it'll take too long. Maybe next time. If Emma comes back, I'll do it. Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah. Women do indeed face many problems in society. However, at my women's college in particular, feminist ideology renders students blind to the injustices that disproportionately affect men, like homelessness, harsh prison sentencing, and gang violence. Thus, colleges need to actively incorporate men's issues into their curriculum, to actively avoid talking about men's issues, to create a citizenry deprived of important knowledge about how the world works for men, and shield students from socioeconomic realities. This must end. When I started taking women's studies classes 4 years ago, I was seduced by feminist ideology. Mentally tabulating my oppression cards became a hobby. Unfortunately, being steeped in feminism didn't just make me blind to the truth about men, it made me actively resist learning about it. Thankfully, while feminism taught me that women were on the losing side of everything, real life taught me that disadvantage is more nuanced than that. Men are 4 times more likely to die by suicide. As schizophrenia is arguably one of the worst mental illnesses, men are also 2 to 3 times more likely to fall into it. Research tends to concur that men are anywhere from 2 to 15 times more likely to have autism. Men are also twice as likely to develop alcohol addiction, which is debilitating and destructive, and has ramifications for everyone, including women and children. Men, especially men of color, also tend to face prison at higher rates than women. According to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, men constitute 93% of all those locked up. Men also receive 63% longer prison sentences for comparable crimes. Many people also say that men are at the top. While it's true that many of the most powerful people are men, we must also recognize that men predominate at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder as well. 62% of the homeless population is male. Men are also 9 times more likely to die homeless. In my experience living in New York City, homeless males outnumber females sleeping on the streets by at least 10 to 1, sometimes by much more. Unfortunately, neither men's issues nor homelessness are glamorous activist domains. All right, before we continue, I want to put out there, I have a question. I think we asked this on the show before, but why is it men make up 62% of the homeless, but they're sleeping on the streets at a rate equal to women at 10 to 1? Is it because women get the shelters, then they get priority, or is it because men give it up, or what?
No, it's because there are a lot of services dedicated specifically to women that men can't access in terms of homelessness. So you essentially, everything that men can access, men and women can equally access. But then there's this other set of resources that are designated specifically for women that men have no access to. So that takes care of some of it. Some of it involves the designation homeless, which just means that you don't have a fixed address. So you could be couch surfing, you could be You could be somebody who's living in a hotel, right? Women have the opportunity, when necessary, to trade sex for shelter, in terms of either being prostitutes or finding somebody who's willing to take them in return for a sexual relationship, right? That men don't have those options. And they're not great options, but they are options that men don't tend to have.
Well, actually, technically, men do have the option, and or at least young men do trade sex for shelter.
Children, yes.
Yeah, also young men as well. But in that case, it tends to be more of a dicier situation for them, I think.
Yeah, and so essentially what you have is and you even have, like, even just a stranger who's going to be willing to take you in, right, and put you up for the night. If you look at the people who are going to, like you're stopped on the side of the highway, and your hood's up, and you look like you're in trouble, right? Lots and lots and lots of people are going to stop and help you out. Most of those people, in fact, almost all, 95 or more % of those people are going to be men, right, who are going to stop and give you a hand. They're not going to be couples. They're not going to be women. They're going to be men who are going to stop and give you help you out. And I think that this as well, if you're a man on the side of the frickin' road with your hood up, nobody's stopping for you. It's just not going to happen. Like, you're going to be standing there for at least 10 times the amount of time before one of those men stops and says, "Hey, buddy, do you need a hand?" And I think that this also plays out in terms of people just being willing to take somebody who's homeless in and, like, give them, just a stranger, and give them a couch to sleep on. And not talking about like a bag lady, but talking about, oh, well, there's this girl at work who, she's sleeping in her car and she's showering at the YWCA. I can let her stay on my couch. That's not a problem, right? You're not going to see as many people who are willing to take in a man who's in that situation, right? And so men end up, because there's no intervention at that early stage of homelessness where you're couch surfing or you're trying to just find some temporary digs in terms of trying to get to something more permanent. There's not as much, there's not as many people who are willing to help you out and invite you into their home, right, and give you a place to stay. And so that's why men end up kind of falling through these cracks, and these are the cracks that form socially, not these, because people who are sleeping in their car, they still have a job, right? They don't necessarily qualify for services, right? They're relying on people around them to sort of step in and give them a little bit of a hand, sort of in a community sense. And men are much less likely to get that than women are. So, yeah.
There's also another thing that I don't think a lot of people realize this, but a significant number of the homeless in the United States, of homeless men in the United States, are homeless because they were taken out of their families' homes. They were kicked out by their wives. They were divorced men who are forced still to pay child support, but can't afford a place to live because their child support obligation and maybe the alimony that they owe are more than they make. And imputed income has become such a serious issue that it's creating a pretty good sized population of men who can't support themselves because they're busy supporting their ex-wife and her lifestyle. And when they start to fall behind because they're ordered to pay more than they make, or they're ordered to pay based on more than they make, then the penalties that they face are things that make it hard to keep a job. They'll take your license. They file a complaint with the credit reporting agencies. They start garnishing your wages. And all of these things are things that are a detriment to your ability to maintain a job. Employers don't like having to pay garnishments. Employers do not hire people with bad credit. And of course, many employers will require you to have a driver's license or to say you have a driver's license to be able to get to work. And in many places, there's not public transit, especially smaller communities. There's not really public transit that a person can use. And of course, if you can't afford to pay your child support, you also can't afford to buy a bus ticket, even if there is public transit. You can't necessarily afford to ride the tube every day. So this is a situation where men end up losing their homes. They end up unable to end up with a new home. They end up losing their jobs. Then they end up with huge child support obligations, and their own government that is supposed to be a system that facilitates paying their child support and encourages them to do better, instead piles barrier upon barrier to keep them from digging their way out of that hole, and eventually they throw them in jail. So now you've got a conviction. When you get out of jail, you now have bad credit, no driver's license, and a conviction on your record. Go get a job with that. Of course you're going to end up homeless.
Shall we continue?
Just moving on. Moving on.
Moving on. Again, thank you for helping me out with the homeless thing. Also, did you guys mention veterans? I dropped like partway through. So.
Oh, veterans are uniquely vulnerable. They are uniquely vulnerable. Like, and one of the things too that I did want to sort of mention was that there was, oh God, I forget who did the study, but it was fairly recent, and they took homeless men sleeping rough in the United States and took them in and gave them fMRI scans. And they found that 60% of them have brain injuries that are detectable through fMRI. So these are men who are disabled, and many of them will be veterans. Head injuries are ubiquitous in the military. It's just sort of par for the course. It's part of the job. My father-in-law is one of these people. He started to lose his mind at age 50. And he's 65 now and is locked in a secure medical psychiatric facility that he's managed to escape from several times. But for his he's locked up for his own safety and the safety of other people around him, because he's a man with SAS training and he has no grasp on reality. And a lot of that had to do with chemical exposures and head injuries that he received while he was in the British SAS and then later in the New Zealand military. So, you know, if his wife, my mother-in-law, if she was not the kind of woman that she is, and was doing everything that it takes to make sure that he has that care and he's in that facility, and she is, you know, making sure that he's looked after, he could very easily have, you know, or if she'd left him the moment things, you know, he really lost his mind and buried sandbags all through the yard, you know, like he would have been on the street, no question. And so essentially what you have is military veterans being an extremely vulnerable population just due to the rates of head injuries that they have, and on top of that, the lifestyle that they live, right? They're highly susceptible to divorce. They're highly susceptible, even if they don't have PTSD, even if they reintegrate back into normal society very easily. They still have a higher divorce rate. They still have a higher rate of being booted out of their homes. And the military does everything it can possibly do to make sure that their ex-spouses have enough money, but it doesn't do enough to make sure that these veterans who serve their country have a roof over their heads, and the services that they need. So yeah.
So this is this can be a combination of what if you know a veteran can be in a situation that is basically like a combination of what Hannah was talking about, as well as what you were talking about, and it's so it's like a double bind. That's awful.
Yeah, and I just got to point out, what I was talking about, that is something that happens almost uniquely to men. Women don't end up in that situation generally unless their children are taken by child protective services and placed in foster care. Then they get treated like men with respect to child support. But until that point, and they don't always get treated entirely like men either, they still end up with more excuses allowed for not paying that child support. But it's more likely to be based on their actual income and so on. But men are uniquely hit with this imputed income, which imputed income is when the judge thinks that you either are or making or should be making more money than you report. So either the judge thinks that you are working under the table, or the judge thinks that you are deliberately not earning a living so that you don't have to pay your child support. I'm homeless deliberately so that I don't have to pay my child support. And it's the most ridiculous thing. And they'll base it on anything from other people in other locations where there is a better job market for what you do, make more money, or the thing that you do was more profitable for you 20 years ago or 10 years ago, or other similar issues, or you could have a better job than the job that you have. That's another one. They hit my husband with that. You could get a better job, right at the point where my area had lost 5 different factories at the end of the Bush administration. Just go out and get a job in manufacturing, because that market's not flooded.
Yeah. No,
and that is unique to men.
Yeah.
Men get hit with that. Women do not.
Yeah, no, my boyfriend, when he graduated from, when he got his engineering degree, if he had been a child support payer, he would have had an imputed income of between $50,000 and $75,000 a year, even though for the first almost a year after he graduated, when he could not find a job, like an actual steady job, he was working in a bakery, graveyards, making cheese Danish, and for $16 an hour. And then after that, he was working for about $2,500 a month on a contract job for 2 months. It was a 2-month contract, and then after that he was making $3,500 a month for about 8 months, right? Working in his field as an engineer, but not for no $75,000 a year. And then after that job went, out the window, he spent 9 months and put in over 1,000 applications with different companies before he was able to find a job as an engineer that paid well, right? And he's still only making, he's making closer to $50,000 than he is to $75,000, right? But because he could, with his degree, be making $75,000, that would be what he would be assigned to pay based on.
All right, we really should move on. But thank you for enlightening everyone with that information and the stuff about the veterans and how this is unique to men and all that. Thanks. Okay, oh yeah. Additionally, 85% of black homicide victims are male. The last time I brought this up in a conversation, a white feminist scoffed and said, "Well, that's their fault," which implied that victims of gang violence somehow deserved it. That's similar to the victim blaming we see with reference to rape. When men lose out, women lose out too. Many of these men are fathers, husbands, and sons. The tear in the social fabric when a community loses a man to gun violence or incarceration has devastating reverberations throughout everyone else's life. Fortunately, it was not textbooks that delivered me from my ignorance, but conversations with the homeless, the mentally ill, former prisoners, drug dealers, and many working class and middle class men. Most students lack that exposure and are therefore unable to fathom how privileged they are. For me personally, I've learned that while being a female puts me at a higher risk of facing rape and domestic violence, it also has served as a shield against street violence, homelessness, poverty, academic failure, functional illiteracy, gun violence, and involvement in the criminal justice system. Once I took off my feminist blinders, I realized that I was fabulously privileged. But colleges will never let students know about these issues. To mention anything that conflicts with the feminist narrative of victimhood is heretical. But professors should be teaching this, teaching students about this will to let them and help them be more knowledgeable future leaders. Our educational institutions have the unique obligation to educate students. Men's issues should be on the syllabi as well. The vast majority of elite women's college students come from upper middle class economic backgrounds. Women's colleges and private colleges in general effectively quarantine young women in protective bourgeois maternal bubbles. Students are sheltered both physically and academically from the ravages that face men. The failure of schools to engender an awareness of male issues in students is harmful. How can we create a truly equal society when male-specific issues aren't just ignored, but they're laughed at? That's actually the name. That's the end of the article. That was really good.
It is actually a really really good article for somebody who's essentially mainstream. As somebody who has actually taken women's studies and is in a women's only college, that's pretty amazing actually. I'm quite impressed.
Alison, did you want me to read some of the comments?
Well, I was thinking. I mean, the thing is, like I said, there's not much more you can say. Tony did a good job.
Yeah.
She's moving towards questioning some of the underpinning of her assumptions, which there's only good that can come from that. For anyone, really. Yeah, like we could take a look at some of the comments to the event, this She for He, if we want to continue with this broadcast.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to go there now to the She for He event. Okay, and scrolling down here. Wait, where are the comments? Hold up. I don't see any. Wait, am I on the right page? Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm doing this right. So this is, this is the area, and then there are some posts.
Mm-hmm.
See here. I'm trying to see the comments.
Okay, well,
what?
Let me help you out.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. I'll give you a paw, Doge.
Is it on the yeah, give me a paw.
Okay, I have to sign in, which is annoying, but I guess I can sign in on
all right. Well, while you're
What is the purpose?
While you're doing that.
What is the purpose of these private rooms? All right. While I'm doing that.
Oh, I was just going to say, while you're doing that, I wonder, this article that this woman wrote, it seems like people are really starting to listen. And I know that it's really early on, and there isn't like a whole lot going on here, but it seems like feminism itself has really stepped up in terms of trying to be heard and shouting at the top of its lungs, and putting out article after article, putting out videos, and putting out all kinds of things, and they're spending lots of money, and they got they put Lacey Green on MTV, and they got Emma Watson to come forward, and they're trying to get celebrities to step out and say I'm a feminist. Like they're doing everything they can to clean up their PR, and people are actually becoming more and more sick of them. Meanwhile, men's issues, whether they're consciously being brought up, like this young lady in the article that we just saw, or they're coming up in this sort of I heard this somewhere, but I'll never admit where I got it from way, which is the way that Cenk does it. They seem to be popping up more and more often as well, where people are acknowledging that men have problems. Do you guys see that as something that is increasing, or am I just being too optimistic?
I
Well, I
definitely
have.
think it's increasing.
You
And
have, or
I think as well, like feminists, the more that they talk about, because like really, when you actually consider the reality of life in the Western world, and you have feminists sort of glomming onto ever more trivial issues in an ever more strident manner. So you have like man spreading and man interrupting and mansplaining and man slamming and sexist air conditioning and all, and people are getting sick of it because it's literally feminists these days are more pissed off about the fucking air conditioning, despite the fact that, you know, these women, right, who are complaining about the air conditioning in their office, they're allowed to work with bare shoulders, like I have right now, right, and bare legs, right, and all of the men around them who they're complaining the air conditioning is set for are wearing long trousers and a long sleeve dress shirt and a blazer and a tie, okay? And somehow these women who could wear something that, I mean, if you look at Cenk and Anna Kasparian on any given day, sitting across the desk from each other, he's wearing a suit and she's wearing some kind of frilly nothing. You know, she's wearing a scrap of cloth that just covers her torso and that's it. And her shoulders and arms are bare, right? And she's going to complain that the air conditioning isn't set for her. She can put on a fucking sweater. She can wear a jacket, right?
yeah.
Like a nice freaking tailored jacket or something like that, right? But she chooses not to, right? And she's going to complain that the air conditioning's too cold for her? Yeah, no. Because it's not like Cenk can fucking go to work in a wife beater, can he? And
Well, let's hope not.
yeah, well, you know, maybe he should. If she ever fucking complains about the air conditioning, I think he should. He should be like, okay, let's turn the heat up. And then he should just show up wearing a fucking wife beater with like the nipples cut out.
See, that's the funny thing. There's all this professional clothing for women that shows a lot of skin. You look at men's clothing, what shows a lot of skin is either for work, for doing labor, you know, physical labor, that doesn't involve some kind of danger that you need to cover the skin to avoid that danger, or you know, like athletics and stuff like that, or it's for you know, leisure at home. It's not something that's considered. It's not something that's considered professional.
Yeah, no,
You know, unless your professional involves athletic activity.
Oh,
Whereas
yeah.
a woman, you can walk in what is essentially what used to be underwear. Camisoles used to be underwear.
Yeah.
And now there's camisoles, a camisole for like the person who doesn't, you know, pay attention to women's clothing. A camisole is like a shirt you wear under your shirt. It's the equivalent of a man's t-shirt, but it's made to look all frilly and girly instead. And so a lot of times it'll be a shiny, smooth fabric instead of cotton, like a satiny type of fabric instead of cotton. And it's very delicate and frilly and everything. And apparently women decided they wanted to wear those on the outside, and it's now common to wear a camisole that's meant to show under something like a sweater or a jacket or something like that. And a man, if they decided they were going to make their underwear outerwear, it would look entirely different because their underwear is almost entirely utilitarian. And when it's not utilitarian, it's set up to look humorous. But I think, you know, getting back to the thing of you know, what we're seeing a change in feminism, I don't think it's a change at all for them to be acknowledging men's issues. If you watch the way they do it, you'll see that it's exploitative more than it is benevolent for the most part. Feminist organizations, feminist ideologues, coffee shop feminists, what they generally do is acknowledge men's issues when they can either make those issues about women, like when they acknowledge prison rape, and then turn it around and say it's those men are being raped because they're being turned into women, and the basis for that is that they're being dominated, which shows that they don't really understand the dynamics of how that happens and why that happens at all. Or did I start screen sharing?
No, I did.
Alison.
No,
Okay.
Allison did.
I was just saying, it's almost what's on my screen, but not quite. But somebody in the chat's like, "Oh God, Hannah is peeping at us." No, that's not me. But anyway, the other end of it is, where they can use it to demonize men and start talking about, and this is also in terms of sexual violence against men. They'll talk about sexual violence against men committed by other men. But you'll notice it's a rare thing for a feminist to be willing to acknowledge that women can commit rape. They'll talk about the homeless problem, but the minute you start bringing up dads getting booted out of their homes and getting evicted from their children's lives and getting told to pay their ex-wives to create this toxic lifestyle for their family, they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about that as a reason for homelessness. They don't want to talk about that as anything. They don't want to talk about divorce reform that might lead to less divorce because women can't get paid for breaking up their families. They don't want to talk about any of that. So I don't really think that feminists as a whole are beginning to care more about men's issues and beginning to care more about men. They're seeing men's issues as an area that they can exploit, as territory that they can conquer to expand their interests. And that's it. That's all.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
But the general population, I think, is becoming more aware that men have issues, and that when you actually look at, because it used to be about a quarter in the U.S. and the U.K. A couple of years ago when they were doing surveys, about a quarter of people identified as feminists, and now it's down to 18% in the U.S. and it's down to something like 7 or 8% in the U.K. who are willing to identify as feminists now. And that has to do a lot with, number one, this sort of strident, angry railing over ever more pathetic and trivial issues, first world problems, that feminists seem to be doing. Jessica Valenti couldn't have done us a bigger favor than when she did that article about how wrapping Christmas presents is oppressive. But at the same time, her husband offers to help her, but she says no because he wouldn't do it right. So she's the architect of her own oppression by these Christmas presents. Like this kind of thing really puts the public off of feminism. Amanda Marcotte's, family dinners and the expectation to, sit down and eat together as a family is oppressive to women. People they're just losing fucking patience. They just do not have the time and the energy to fucking, feminists are stepping on people's last fucking nerves, and they're leaving the movement in droves. And then on top of that, you have a growing awareness of men's issues, which are also helping to do that, because when you actually have people like us out there who are putting men's issues in a perspective where it isn't that all roads lead to misogyny. Not every problem men have can be blamed on the fact that society hates women. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is, feminists. It's not all about the hatred of women. People can see the truth of that, right? They really can. And so then they end up listening to people saying, oh, prison rape is about misogyny, right? And things like that. And they're like, what the fuck are these bitches on about? And so more of them leave that whole, start coming over to a more reasonable and balanced perspective on things. So I think that it's two things at once. It's sort of feminists doing what they do, which I don't think that they're going to be able to stop. They're only doubling down harder and harder and harder. right, which is going to marginalize them more and more and more over time. And we're just kind of calmly and reasonably stating our case over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Sometimes
And,
not so reasonably, though, not so calmly, at least.
oh, whatever, but people are starting to listen, and they're starting to become aware. And so it's sort of this, we're sort of coming at it from both ends. Feminists are doing their thing, we're doing our thing, and it's causing, it's like Nick Redding's feminist, non-feminist cooperation spiral. Beautiful. If you haven't watched it, go do it.
Brian.
Okay. Absolutely right on what you guys are saying. I especially like when Hannah said feminists don't. They are only paying attention to men's issues now because they can't ignore it anymore, essentially. And so now they have an opportunity to basically take it and put it under their umbrella. They want to control the conversation around gender, period. And one of the examples of this is the film I said I saw yesterday called The Mask You Live In, which is essentially, it was made by the same group that made the film Misrepresentation, which is a documentary about how women are represented in the media and how destructive that is to women. And so I guess there was a lot of, they got a good amount of negative feedback on the film from people that were like, what about men? And so they decided to show that they care about men too, because they have to show that feminism cares about men too. And they made this film, The Mask You Live In, which is essentially all about the pathology of masculinity. And the reason why I bring it up is because a comment that was written in the article that I just read, which is, you know, the Quillette article, someone wrote that there is a class for men's issues. There is a class called Masculine Studies at that same college. It's run by a male feminist named Michael Kimmel.
Michael Kimmel.
Yes.
He was interviewed in The Mask You Live In.
Yes, he is in The Mask You Live In, and he believes that masculinity is a pathological illness. This guy has a PhD in a study so niche he probably peer reviews all of his own papers. Feminism studies are like a fantasy novel with its own internal rules and logic, which is why they never allow their papers to be peer-reviewed outside of their own circles, and they are the laughingstock of scientific communities. Feminism will never address men's issues in a constructive way because it doesn't fit their fantasy world. If they do, then they have to retcon their narrative or create paradoxes, such as the patriarchy hurts men too. So yes, the Michael Kimmel guy is in the film I was talking about. So if you...
Well, yeah, and I just wanted to add too, right? Because like feminism has this grand unifying theory, right? Just like physics has, the grand unifying theory. And it's
Men did it.
It's called the patriarchy, okay? And there are a couple of things that they have used to bolster people's belief in this grand unifying theory. And one of them was the Duluth model of domestic violence, which essentially blames family violence. It defines it as male perpetrated on women and children, and it blames it on sort of normalized masculinity within a patriarchal culture. It may be the extreme end, but it's still normalized. It's still men living up to masculine values and just essentially doing what men do in patriarchal cultures. And the other one is rape, which they also defined as male perpetrated primarily on women. And so they've got these two problems, these massive social problems that stick out like a sore thumb to everybody. Nobody likes domestic violence against women. Nobody likes the idea of women getting raped, right? And so they're extremely useful in terms of how much emotional kick they can give the public, right? They essentially rendered these two phenomena definitionally male and blamed them on patriarchal construction of masculinity, which is actually completely backward. Rape was the last non-lethal offense to still be subject to the death penalty in most Western countries, and it has always been defined as something only a man could do to only a woman. So you essentially have, you know, this crime that was seen as so egregious that it was, you know, you got fucking hanged for it, right? But society was always permissible, you know, and it's just society's always reinforced men's entitlement to women's bodies and all this shit. Like, it's completely fucking backwards. But they managed, because of this, because of how offended we are by the idea of wife battering and the rape of women, to convince us that, you know, because it happens at all, society actually condones it. And so they use this sort of, these models of rape and domestic violence as being based on patriarchal masculinity and the subordination of women as sort of evidence for their grand unifying theory of patriarchy. Well, of course patriarchy exists because this is how rape works. Rape is based on patriarchal behavior, and this is how domestic violence works. It's based on patriarchal behavior. So of course, because these things exist, patriarchy exists, right? And therefore, ergo, you know, it's all men's fault, right? And so, as Alison so succinctly put it a minute ago, so they're not going to ever want to let go of the idea that rape and domestic violence are definitionally male, that they are definitionally masculine, that these are patriarchal masculine issues, right? They're not going to do that. They're never going to acknowledge. They will acknowledge male victims of other men, right? They will not acknowledge male victims or even female victims of women, because that removes the patriarchal aspect of things, and then they no longer can say, well, of course patriarchy is real and it's all men's fault. Look at domestic violence, look at rape culture, look at all of this stuff, right? Yeah, no. So I mean, the entire thing is just, it's this exquisitely stacked house of cards, right? Where if you remove one card, the whole thing comes down, right? And they're not going to let go of any of those cards, and they're not going to let you get your, you know, freaking breath or your fingers near any of them. They're not going to fucking let anybody else touch them, right? Because they know how fragile it is. I think at some level they know, they understand how fragile it all is, and that if you just pull one of those cards out, it's all just gonna be revealed as bunkum.
Can I echo? Okay, I just want to get in there, at the risk of offending everyone, and I will take that risk, because it's what I do. Feminists, you know, we can look at them, we poke at them, and we can say, hey, look at their insane crap, but at the end of the day, they appeal to a lot of people in our society. And even those people who say, yeah, they're crazy, they take it too far, they still agree with things like women are oppressed, men rape, are primarily responsible for rape and domestic violence, women are more victim-y overall, men are the ones who do it, and men are the ones who have to take responsibility. So there is a huge contingent of society that, even though they'll say, feminists are a little wacky, they still need feminists to explain to them how the world works and how women are still victims and men are still in charge. It's like they still need that there, even if they think that feminists take it too far. It's like some sort of gentleman's agreement. Yeah, we all know that women are utterly defined by being victims of women are utterly defined by being victims of men, but we don't take it to the point where, you know, we advocate killing all men, or we do, like, you know, huge, you know, national campaigns implicating men in a rape culture. We don't take it that far. We just take it far enough to make men feel like shit, and women feel like they always have that card in their back pocket. Oh yeah, but I've actually seen that card being used, the feminist card. My husband, one of his female relatives, he was having an argument with her over something completely, or it might have been slightly related to this, and she tried to use, but the women were oppressed, historically card, to win the argument. And let me try to remember what recall what my husband said. I think he said that does I don't care. I think it was some variation of I don't care. If the women are oppressed, that doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that you're gonna win this point right now. This is not that's not relevant to what's going on right now. I think was his ultimate rejoinder to that. But even though she wouldn't identify as a feminist, she still wants to have that women were oppressed card in her back pocket so she can use it in an argument to browbeat a guy she doesn't, and it wasn't necessarily browbeating, but just to have a gotcha and be able to win the argument. And women were chattel or other bullshit like that. And so I mean, there is, as much as we can poke fun at and point fingers at feminists, there's an aspect of feminism that seems to appeal to a lot of people. Not the extremism, but the fact that feminism creates this elaborate epicycle-based scientific reasoning, quasi-scientific reasoning, possibly legitimate, like just holding on with its fingernails to the possibility of actually making any kind of rational sense. Excuse for why we can continue to believe that women are just always more subjugated than men. They're always just more victim-y somehow. They're just in the position of being defined by men's actions. So it's like we seem to have a need for feminists, and that's what I want to actually route out, because these women, they're our responsibility. This happened on our watch. This is something that occurred because we allowed it to continue. So there's something, it's not just feminists, there's something that we need to figure out about ourselves in order to solve this problem. And it's got to be deeper than just pointing fingers at feminists, because I mean even anti-feminists will take on feminist talking points about the third world. It's as if we have to have some dark mass of men out there being sinister and evil and cackling over the white, female slave flesh and with the, and counting out their shekels and salivating and whatever. We just need that. We need to have that perception that other societies just treat their women wrong for some reason, or we just aren't happy with ourselves. We go into some sort of existential crisis. If women don't need to be saved from something, we enter an existential crisis where we don't even know what the fuck we're existing on this planet for. Anyway, there you go.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree that we are highly susceptible. I mean, we see women's vulnerabilities and we don't see men's, and we care about women's vulnerabilities in ways that we just do not care or can't afford to care about men's, or have never been able to afford to care about men's. And so, essentially, it really is sort of like that thing with, that I was saying with the homeless or being stuck on the side of the road. If you're a woman, the reason people are stopping for you is because, number one, they see you as vulnerable and in need of help and deserving of help, right? And the other reason that they're stopping for you and not a guy is because they don't see you as a threat. So those are two massive things, right? Being able to be seen as not only vulnerable but deserving of help, that's what women have over men, and being seen not as a threat, right? And that seems to be the entire basis of female privilege, or female privileges, and sort of the male disposability phenomenon. And it also seems to be sort of the very foundation of our psyches that feminism exploits so exquisitely, is just that women are vulnerable and are in need of and deserving of help, while men are a threat.
Shall we go over the comments? Because I think we've beat whatever train we were on, to mix a metaphor. We've beat the train to death.
I got one thing to point out. When feminists throw patriarchy theory at you, and this is like probably one of the worst cartoons I ever created. And it's one of the best in terms of what it says, but one of the worst in terms of the artwork, because I'm not an artist. I mean, I'm a photographer, but I'm not. I don't draw. So this is traced from other pictures and then put together in a composite, and it's traced on a desk using a mouse, and it's on a desk with a rough surface. So it looks awful. And I wouldn't object for a minute if somebody else wanted to create a better version of this. But what feminists are doing is they're foisting blame for their own actions onto the people that they demand take action on their behalf. They lobby for changes in law. They demand that authoritative systems act on their behalf. And then when men are damaged by those systems, they say, oh, that wasn't us. That was the government. That was the patriarchy. That was men doing that to other men. And it takes a long time, a lot of studying, a lot of seeking answers through looking at feminist research and through looking at feminist lobbying history and looking at feminist academia to see what is behind this so-called patriarchy. And witness the damseling, and witness the fraud, and witness the demands that the so-called patriarchy strangle men, step on men's throats, knock men down, take from men and give to women on behalf of feminism. Feminism is the patriarchy
Oh yeah.
of their own imagining.
On
They
the-
are the force behind the force.
Yeah, but before
No,
we...
it's not everything. I mean, I will admit that there are things that existed prior to feminism, but anytime that anybody tries to fix anything, they stand against it. So as far as I'm concerned, they are to blame.
All right, let's get to some of these comments.
All right, cool. Oh, and Hannah, I know some people that will probably love to draw that. Maybe.
Yes, I would love if one of you guys would take it and actually make it worth looking at. I mean,
yeah,
besides
no, I think it looks pretty good, but I know someone who can work some. I know some people that can probably do something with that. If you send it to me later.
Certainly.
Okay. Yay. All right, Allison. Let's look at these comments.
Okay, so we got one from Candy Owner. I like this idea that feminists spend their time fighting to be damsels. I mean, most of Vancouver feminists I know are busy helping women escape violence, fighting for women's rights more broadly, and confronting the law and abusive men who endanger women in order to do it. I guess we must all be very confused about what feminism is. Or are you? Or are you? Or you are? Oh, wait, yeah, that had me worried there for a moment. Oh, my.
Oh.
So basically, the feminists in Vancouver are busy helping damsels.
Yeah. Are
Yeah.
busy casting women as damsels because they're women, but, you know.
And men as villains because they're men.
Yeah. So, thank you, Candy. I think that you are very confused about what I said because you just basically said what I said.
Are they, or they're dumping piss on people's heads that disagree with them, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that also going on? Okay.
We can't confirm that for sure. Was it confirmed that
I don't know that. I don't think it was confirmed that it was pee. She said it smelled like it might have been pee, but who the hell knows?
Yeah. Okay, so this is probably Theron. SFU advocacy for men and boys. Hello there, Candy. Even though this event will not be about what it is and isn't feminism and will instead focus on men's issues, we still encourage you to come.
Feminism.
Come and address your concerns at the event. I hope to see you there. Okay, I'm gonna just zoom up. I just belted out this because she wanted me, or Theron wanted me to write like a. Am I breaking up?
Yeah.
No. Oh no, not for me.
For me,
Okay.
you were. I didn't hear you.
All right. Well, essentially, I wrote why is Facebook so crap?
Because it's Facebook. Blame Zuckerberg and the patriarchy.
I definitely blame the patriarchy for this crap.
Yeah,
Like
well, they
what?
designed it for women, so there you go.
The Zuckerbergriarchy.
They designed it for women, so it doesn't make sense.
That's yeah.
Like, why can't I find what?
It's made for selfies and Instagram hoes. Models, I mean.
Okay, this is discussion. This is about... You see, this is why I never used Facebook.
Yeah, see, that's why I told you I couldn't find it either.
No, I did find the comments. Now I just can't find the
actual description of the event.
Yes, it's like, what the fuck? It was there, and now it's disappeared again. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. This is there where they asked for submissions for the questions. This is the event page. All right. Okay. Oh, there we go. I don't know how that just appeared. I don't have a flipping clue.
Patriarchy did it.
What freaking maze I went down to make it appear? Okay, presentation description. This is what I wrote, and I was like at a loss, so I just... Chivalry, women, and children come first. He for she. What do all these things have in common? The idea that men are more powerful than women and must use that power in service of women's weakness and inability. This is the traditional idea of manhood, using strength to serve and protect the traditionally weaker feminine. But what if the truth is that women are not weak and not incapable, and that it is really women who should be obligated to use their power in service of men's vulnerabilities? Introducing she for he and the radical notion that being a damsel for a woman isn't radical. I guess that is an allusion to feminism that they picked up?
Maybe, I don't know.
So they got concerned because of that allusion to feminism.
I do like Theron in her fedora.
Yeah, she's tipping it, milady.
Milady.
Okay.
Does that go?
Yeah, I think it's Karen.
All right, she's muted.
Yeah, you muted.
Here's someone's point.
I muted myself, and then I muted myself again, because fuck you, Brian.
Okay, so this is M. Laurent. Handmaidens for the patriarchy, or how can one focus on the issues of men's rights when the global system of power that allows men's rights to flourish above all? This intellectual socialist activist pursuit seems like anti-feminist martyrdom.
Well, then I guess it won't work.
Yeah, I guess.
Might as well just sit back and wait for the fail to roll in.
Within a global system of power that allows men's rights to flourish above all, because we have like billions of dollars at our disposal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, it's
men's
so funny.
Rights flourish above all.
I mean, isn't your prime minister an MRA along with our president?
No,
Yeah.
Totally a gamer.
And totally like this is the first time in human history where the ruling group, it was stigmatized to actually advocate for the rights of the ruling group. This is the first time in history that makes sense, or that has happened.
Yeah.
Even though it's stigmatized to actually even advocate for men's rights, you can lose your job, you can be socially ostracized, even though it's totally stigmatized.
Yeah, no, but we're still.
Men are the ones who have the men's rights are what's flourishing above all.
Yes, above all. Right? It's like literally you can advocate for the rights of salmon and keep your job.
A zero-sum game.
Okay, no, so let me finish this. I gotta get back to it though. All right. Because this is from Dean Hedges, because the flourishing rights of men, are not actually there, please come to the event. We'll have a wonderful day of discovering yourself. It will be a wonderful day of discovering yourself. M. Laurent. This is a reactionary attempt to couch men's rights activism within a paradigm of egalitarian politics. I imagine anyone with capacity for critical thought would not waste their time engaging in such dogma. Take care. Dean Hedges, your whole paradigm of it's pro-men, it's anti-woman is an important pivot point. M. Laurent, no, just questioning the investment of women's resources in promoting the rights of the dominant sex caste within the current social milieu.
Oh, God.
Nathan Christopher, I suppose women are free to support whatever event or cause they so desire. Oh, my God. E.J. Spurl. Yep, they are. That's why I'll be attending this event, eager to hear the other often ignored part of the story. Life's much more fun when you're not knee-deep in conspiracy theories. M, you should try it. I'll protect you from the reactionaries.
Wait, I thought the MRM was the one that was knee-deep in conspiracy theory. I gotta go and revisit my facts.
Yeah, no, it's because the patriarchy is not a conspiracy theory, but pointing out, the fact that feminists yet again managed to get yet another fucking alimony reform bill vetoed in Florida, right? Yeah, that's we're engaging in conspiracy theories, pointing out that now and various other women's groups lobbied Governor Scott and got him to, for the second fucking time in 3 years, to veto an alimony reform bill that had 70 to 80% of the support of the electorate and passed both houses with overwhelming bipartisan support, right? And then now goes and their freaking cronies, all their different groups. Oh, and the Divorce Lawyers Association, the Association of Family Lawyers, right? Lobbied him and convinced him to veto a bill that had overwhelming public and political support behind it. Yeah, but that's us engaging in conspiracy theory, saying that feminism does shit like that, right? But the patriarchy is real, damn it.
And it's not just that one instance either. That's like a consistent thing with feminist groups. The National Organization for Women, various chapters of the National Organization for Women have defeated numerous equal shared parenting laws by lying about the way that they are written and by demonizing fathers as deadbeats and abusers. They'll claim that laws that make the default in a divorce case where custody is uncontested between the parents or the parents haven't come up with their own agreement, so the default, if they just say, well, we're going to go with what the default is, that would be 50-50 shared parenting. And they lie and say that that's going to force judges to place children with abusive fathers. And it presumes that fathers are abusive, and it's a lie in that it would force judges to do anything. It doesn't force judges to do anything. Judges can take action based on extenuating circumstances and mitigating factors. And this is what feminists do. This is what feminist groups do. This is what feminism's establishment does. And this is why when I hear not all feminists like that, or are like that, I turn around and say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if not all feminists are like that. It matters that the feminists who have an effect on changes in law and policy are.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's move on to M. Lawrence's next pearl of wisdom. I imagine the comments that will follow will continue to reveal the absurdity of this event. Take care, all. Boy, she keeps saying goodbye and yet not going. John Smith, yeah, I know, the absurdity that men are the majority of suicide victims and feminists in society don't care. Okay.
Well, she keeps saying goodbye and not leaving, but she also doesn't actually say anything.
No, she doesn't. I don't know who worked at the Ontario Libertarian Party, but apparently M. Lawrence is really disgusted with that. Now we have a new one. Misha Milne. Does this movement suggest that men are weaker than women and need protecting? Oh my god! Oh my! Well, that's just horrifying, isn't it? Just the thought.
Yeah.
No, but it's like, yeah, I know. It's like just the thought. Just the possible thought of that. It's just, obviously we can't even entertain it.
No. Now, hang on a second. Feminists claim that their proclaimed need for feminist advocacy doesn't mean that women are weak. They claim that living your victimhood, sharing your victimhood with the world, giving your experiences to everybody, and basically wearing your heart on your sleeve is a sign of strength. That it's strength to come out and talk about how oppressed you are, that you're fighting the oppression. As soon as men do it, it's weakness.
Don't stare too
bullshit.
long into the abyss. This ridiculous logic.
That
I'm calling bullshit.
That's IMAX levels of projection. That's what that is.
Cell Rinse, Voice of Reason replies, I don't think it suggests that men are weaker than women. However, it does suggest that men are worse off than women in some ways, which is an objective fact. Example, men are discriminated against in all aspects of the legal system from arrest to sentencing. Men are far more likely to be prisoners, homeless, educational dropouts than women. They are far more likely to commit suicide. Men are less likely to attend college, etc. Oh, and here we go. We got.
Holy
oh my
shit!
Yeah, I know. So Adrian Mutt replies, Sal, I think all of those issues can be addressed very thoroughly with a feminist perspective. I'm by no means an expert on the subject.
But I'm gonna write a fucking essay on it anyway.
However,
I'm not an expert, but here's a word salad the size of a fucking
football.
Ethiopian supply drop worth of useless information.
How many calories do you think are in that word salad?
Okay, I just want to make a prediction about your word salad, Adrian. I'm predicting with my little crystal ball that you are going to find a way to take men's victimhood and turn it into men's responsibility and refocusing on men's agency and men being the real reason why they're victims. If you're going to do that little trick, and we're going to watch it happen. So, however, take for example our society's expectation of males to embody hegemonic traits of masculinity, which may vary but represent a universal trend. Okay, all right, but wait, the men are still victims of society's expectations. So we haven't gotten all the way through the wormhole yet. So let's see. Male types such as tough guys, gangsters, womanizers, protectors, aggressors, not to mention homophobic representations. These are portrayed across the media of the West as if they are not embodied, and if they are not embodied, boys from an early age will police the behavior of one another, calling each other sissy and faggot, etc. Anti-intellectualism is also common amongst men. Nerds are made fun of in popular culture. I guess he didn't get the memo that nerds are now sexist, macho, swaggering dude bros. Okay.
Yeah, Vladimir Putin shitposts about Gamergate every day. And he's like the swaggiest, dude broiest dude ever.
Anti-intellectualism is also common among men. Nerds are made fun of on a popular culture and on the schoolyard. So we have violent, aggressive behaviors that mask a deep frustration and disconnect and result in male unhappiness and dysfunction, and at worst, violence against women, men, and themselves. These are all functions of patriarchy. Now we're moving away from men as victims towards men as responsible agents because somebody really has a problem with the idea that men can actually be acted upon. Can actually be recipients of someone else's actions. and he's doing the mental gymnastics. But this is something that affects, I think, everybody. Everybody has problems with the idea that men can be victims. We cringe at the thought.
I fucking hate this we care about men approach. This is the same shit that was in that video. This is the same narrative that's in every video that or piece of literature or article or editorial piece that feminists write about when it comes to them saying we care about men. They always say the same shit. Patriarchy turns men into terrible people because they aren't responding well to the feminized education system and child rearing techniques that we've given them, that they're not responding well to the fact that there is no fathers in a home because we have set up the system so that mothers can just get divorces, kick the dads out of the house, take everything from him, and raise the children on their own, despite the fact that statistically speaking, a single mom is the worst. It can lead to the worst possible outcomes for children, especially boys. They never acknowledge the fact that one of the reasons why men behave in a traditionally masculine way, which they think is destructive, is because women like it, and they never acknowledge that. it pisses me off so bad that the only thing that they think is that men have to change as an entire group, and they have to be less masculine because masculinity is the problem. Being masculine is the problem. They have to be feminized, and somehow they think that if men did that, it's not only going to be better for them, but women are going to be okay with it too. There's no fucking way that that's going to work. That is going to destroy everything. I mean, I know that seems hyperbolic, but that's insane.
Oh, but we're going to end up with a society full of Alan Aldas, but none of them are going to have Alan Alda's money and fame, and so nobody's going to be getting laid. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is that one thing I took from what you said, Brian, is they are blaming the results of feminizing just to use one concrete example. Feminists changed the curriculum in schools to benefit girls better, or not even benefit girls better, but they changed it to something that would benefit boys less, so girls do better in it. They don't do as good as what would benefit both boys and girls, but since in that scheme boys would do better than girls, they just scrapped it, and they replaced it with something that only girls do better in.
And when you point out that girls are doing, like, boys are failing, they don't see it that way. They see it as, well, women are just getting their comeuppance. How does it feel? Let me drink your male tears now.
It'd be great if they were that honest about it. Instead, they take their changes to the educational system, and they turn around and say, boys are failing because of our anti-intellectualism and the patriarchy, as you say. You know, it's like they're actually blaming this choice that feminists made to make or
brought about,
and they're blaming the result on boys being anti-intellectualism and because of the patriarchy.
Yeah. They're basically using something that's the equivalent of like chemo. Chemo is you poison your body and you hope the cancer dies before your body does, and it's like it's that same kind of an effect. They reduced the quality of education in a way that is intended to hurt boys more than it hurts girls, and because girls were hurt less by it, they claim an improvement in girls' education, and they celebrate boys' greater failure to adapt to it than girls, and accuse them of being anti-intellectual because they were more hindered by the reduction in quality of education than girls were.
It's like a feminist literally just strode out and just started smacking boys. Smack, 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 smack. And when the boys got upset, they said, that's patriarchy.
Well, the woman in the film yesterday, when they were talking about how boys weren't doing well in school and they're having trouble focusing and they're falling behind in classes, they're blaming it on their masculinity. They're blaming it on not present fathers or even in some cases abusive fathers, without ever acknowledging the fact that there are women who chose to fuck those men and have babies with those men. But that doesn't come up. And it doesn't come up that they may have made a bad choice, or they didn't go through. They for whatever reason they didn't have any part to play in what happened to these kids. And when that happens, they interview the woman, and she's like, I don't know what, for whatever reason, boys don't appreciate the way that we feminize them, and that's literally what she says. And it's like, bitch, they're boys.
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous. Like,
let's medicate them. That's all.
Well, I mean, girls, in single mother households, girls at least have female role models. They have them in their mother, right? If their mother is a complete freaking flake, right? They have them in their daycare workers. They have them in their primary school teachers. They have female role models all over the fucking place. Responsible adult females all over the place, day to day, every single fucking day in their lives, right? This is what girls have, right? Boys, if they don't have a father around, right, they're not getting a male adult role model in their daycare center. They're not getting it at, in kindergarten through 5 or 6, right? They're not getting that in primary school. They're not getting an adult, a responsible adult male, right, to model healthy masculinity to them, right? So where do they go looking for it? They look for it from their same age peers, who are often in the same fucking boat as they are, fatherless, because, you know, you have these men deserts, as they call them in freaking Britain, right? They essentially have gigantic fucking neighborhoods of public housing, subsidized housing, where there is not a man to be found over the age of 21 within 10 square miles, right? Because there are no fathers around, right? There are only women and children. That's it, right? And so these boys go and they look for it among their same age peers, right, who do not, because they are young and stupid, right, or because they are young and going through fucking puberty and are in a state of freaking biological turmoil, right, who are essentially behaving like fucking Johnny Knoxville in the Jackass movies, right, rather than behaving like a responsible adult and showing these boys how to behave. Now, one of the best movies, I think, for masculinity, and anybody who's interested in positive portrayals of masculinity, even when it's flawed, even when it's difficult, even when there are problems with it, right? Gran Torino.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that was an older man who took a young man under his wing, right? Showed him the ropes, showed him how to go into the fucking barber shop and insult the fucking barber, right? Using, did you Jew someone out? Why are you smiling so much? Did you Jew someone out of their 25 cents change today, right? And then the other guy is like, that's just like a Pollock or whatever, right? I mean, that movie encapsulates what masculinity is, which is it's ribbing, it's toughening each other up, but in a way that, like, I'm going to toughen you up, you're under my wing. I'm going to toughen you up, you're under my wing, right? That's what that is all, and we're depriving boys of this. We are completely stripping boys of this model of, and they don't even get it in the fucking popular culture either.
Yeah,
they want. They get the rare Gran Torino, the rare Heartbreak Ridge. Clint Eastwood is beautiful about picking movies that portray masculinity in all of its complex glory, right? 7 Mules for Sister Sarah, everything, right? You have fewer and fewer positive portrayals of masculinity as it is, which is it's rough around the edges often, right? It's not just all about honor and nobility. Sometimes it's a little bit rough. Sometimes it's a little bit uncouth, right? But it's well-intentioned. It's decent. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, right? And it's necessary. And we don't have these boys don't have it in their homes, they don't have it in their schools, they don't have it in their daycare centers, they don't have it on the streets of their community often, right? And they don't fucking have it even in media and pop culture. They don't have that positive portrayal of responsible masculinity.
And then
at all.
Feminists make it so that women can remove men from their lives, from the lives of their sons, and that women are every child in the West, their upbringing, their entire existence as a child is as a result of women's choices. Every single child, unless they were born out of a woman who was locked up in a basement,
or in a coma.
Or in a coma. Every single child in the West, their childhood is a series of decisions made by their mother. Even if that decision is, okay, I'm going to keep the father in the home, which is a good decision. So every single child that they complain about being a womanizer, a gangster, an aggressor, or being a teen hoodlum, that child was a result of women's choices about their childhood, because a woman is the only adult in our society who we allow to have the final say over a child's childhood. And now they're turning around and blaming that on the patriarchy. And as I read this, it strikes me that the patriarchy is the catch-all for whenever a feminist wants to say, hey, something bad happened, it's because of the patriarchy. It's not because of our choices to give women the absolute and complete veto power over a child's life, and we've discovered that women, being humans, don't necessarily make the best choices when they're allowed to do that.
To do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Without stigma.
And
with full cooperation and help and support and subsidize.
Yeah, they can do whatever they want. And yes, some fathers walk away from their kids, but that's about the only choice that fathers can make in a kid's life. Every other choice is made by women.
God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, so
it's no wonder.
These children are created by the choices of their mothers, and now he's turning around, and that has been ensured and enshrined in law by feminism, and he's turning around and blaming the results of that on patriarchy. It must be great to just be like, be able to just blame patriarchy whenever you fucking want. You know what?
Yeah.
I forget to take the garbage out. Oh yeah, John, that was patriarchy. I nuke a freaking CD, and he comes home and acrid smoke has filled the freaking condo. Oh no, that wasn't me. It was patriarchy. Can't get angry at me. It was patriarchy.
So how did Adrian manage to avoid the tendrils of the patriarchy so that he wasn't throwing his weight around as a man? I mean, or is he just like uniquely qualified to not be one of those bad men? He's enlightened, he has achieved nirvana, found feminism, the light, Jesus, whatever, and now he is saved, and he wants to share that word with the rest of us lowly men. Yes.
Okay, let me finish this comment, because I'm already like just a little hyped up about the freaking flights tomorrow, and I haven't finished my speech, so.
Okay.
Okay. These are all functions of patriarchy, in that they operate throughout society to produce men who are either passively or actively engaged in sexist treatment of women, while behaving in violent, antisocial ways that normally result in their own incarceration or mental illness, but reproduce the perception in society that men need to be tough, emotionless, sexually dominate, or degrading with women, and providers of resources, lest they be considered weak, homosexual, or useless in the public eye. Okay, Adrian, which is it? Are men supposed to be providers of resources for women and protectors, or are they supposed to be aggressive ravishers? Because you got two different male concepts smashed into one here, and it's really annoying. Separate them; they don't go together.
It is all possible under patriarchy.
Oh yeah, that's right. Hand wave, patriarchy. I say that these are functions of patriarchy in a feminist sense. Because with every problem that I have described, there is an analog for women. The tough guy gets incarcerated for domestic abuse stemming from abuse he witnessed in the home. Oh, fuck.
Oh, fuck. Not abuse that he actually endured as a child?
Yeah, no, he witnessed it.
Most likely by the hands of his mother, because if you're in a single mother home, chances are your mom is the one beating the shit out of you.
Well, it's not going to be your father if he's gone.
Yeah!
The homosexual man commits suicide because heteropatriarchal culture demands that men denigrate those who do not engage in typical, often degrading or exploitative heterosexual acts with women. As I read this, and my prediction was correct, this Adrian just cannot conceive or even witness or even just conceptualize in his brain the idea that men can be a victim, that men can be acted upon, that men can be vulnerable. He just can't. He has to do all of these acrobatics and flips and elaborate twirls to end up back on, yeah, men are the responsible ones. He just can't conceive. It's like it's oil and water.
When men are the victims, in this case, it is because there are other men that are victimizing them that are worse men. So in this case, when he says heterosexual men or homosexual men are the victims of heterosexual men. So in this case, they can be victims because they're not heterosexual. So so he's just changing. As long as the victimizers remain male and the victims are of a slightly lower, less privileged class, then it works. So men of color are victims to white men. Homosexual men are victims to heterosexual men. Transgendered men are victims of cisgendered men, and so on and so on.
Well,
I understand that we have bombs underneath San Francisco. We're planning on sinking it pretty soon because there's too many gay men. They got to go. I mean, that's what the patriarchy does.
okay.
So,
Just
Are there sharks with laser beams, though?
the buck has to stop with men.
yeah.
The men have to be in a position of ultimate responsibility over everything. I don't know what would happen if Adrian, just woke up one morning and was like, looked at the guy picking up the garbage in the garbage truck, and then the guy going down the sewer to fix the fucking sewer, and then he just thought, wait, maybe men aren't in control of everything. Despite the fact that they do everything, maybe they aren't in control of everything. Because, throughout history, the people who do things or get things done aren't necessarily the people who are directing the value system of society. I wonder what would happen if that occurred to him. Like, if it ever could occur to him, like, emotionally. Is this a thought that's even possible for him? Because it's like he's putting his brain through a cheese grater to make all this shit. Like, it must be difficult. It must be an effort. So there must be some force in his brain that's preventing him from just going to the easy route of saying, yeah, men are sometimes victims of women. Yeah, probably half the time. Or women have exerted influence on men. Yeah, let's move on. He's going through the effort of putting his brain through this cheese grater of fucking elaborate gyrations to make this, to return the buck to men. So what is motivating all of this energy and cognitive dysfunction? All right.
He doesn't want to face the idea that he's not powerful.
It does sort of feel like that.
He's been told all of his life that he is powerful.
You mean he's empowered?
Yes, he's been empowered in the feminist sense.
Yeah, this is what empowerment does to men.
Okay. In the feminist sense. The man who drops out of university does so because he feels the need to work and provide for his family or wife, which is connected to an era in which women did not work but were maintained in a position necessitating unpaid reproductive work and care labor, while remaining economically dependent on a man. You're thinking of extremely wealthy women, my friend, because every other woman in history who wasn't part of a wealthy class worked. Every problem men has is a result of patriarchal conditions that hurts both women and men. But men are ultimately responsible for, of course. My departure from this group is rooted in my belief. What? Is this like an elaborate I'm flouncing? My departure from this group is rooted in my belief that feminists have done a very fine job taking a lot of this apart already, and are continuing to build a wealth of scholarly work on our patriarchal culture. And not to bait any conflict, but I do see men's rights activism as a reactionary response to the recent trend in high visibility of certain self-described feminists on the internet who do a fair share of conflict baiting themselves. I put both the men's rights activists and social justice warrior camps together, and that I think they need to read more or let go of politics of division and think about the bigger picture. Oh, so he doesn't like social justice warriors.
So he's one of those. So he's one of those super aggressive fence sitters that thinks you guys are doing it wrong. I'm the smartest guy in the room because I don't agree with either side. That means that he has no leg to stand on. He's just one of those people that's just like, I see both sides, and I think that they're both equally bad, and I'm going to sit over here off to the side and be the best, smartest, and most enlightened person in the room, because I'm not like you.
Clue to the people who think that way. It's actually not that difficult to criticize positions. If you really want to be the smartest in the room, figure out how both positions are right.
Fucking asshole, man. I fucking hate that shit in people. That you guys are both full of shit. I'm over here. I'm the option number 3. You didn't know this existed. Fucking assholes. I'm sorry.
We're here to offend everyone. But seriously, you want to be the smartest person in the room? You figure out how two sides are both right, because that's hard. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, my concern, and you know what? I almost prefer social justice warriors to this.
Yeah, because they have this thing called conviction. Even if their ideas are stupid, they will stick by them.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily about being the smartest person in the room. But anyway, I do, however, like the idea of men and women to speak about issues that men have. Okay? Well, then why do you have a problem? Do you have a problem? I don't even understand. Could you be more, like, less words, more clarity? The issues you brought up and the ones that I had talked about are all real. And us guys aren't so good at speaking with vulnerability and emotional openness about them. Yeah, that's why you create elaborate shit like hegemonic, heterosexual, cisgendered, homophobic cartwheels to blame it all on I don't know, jocks, patriarchy, whatever.
Capitalism. Whatever.
Yeah, because if you didn't have a problem, in fact, I think the real problem may not just be emotional vulnerability and emotional openness, but the idea that women have the power to make you a victim. That is the real problem, I think, that I'm sensing from you, Adrian. My concern is these frustrations, worries, and certainly reasonable problems that you folks have with our society are being framed as solely men's issues, isolated from structures which hurt women as well, or are not informed by the wealth of feminist work that could probably really help you if you knew where to look. So in other words, we recognize men's issues without, women have it worst. And that's regressive. That they call us regressive because we can look at men's issues and not say women have it worse. We don't actually need women to be bigger victims. We don't actually need women to be the ones who are primarily acted upon by these issues in order to recognize them. I would consider that progressive, but maybe I'm a fucked up retard. Anyway.
Yeah, it would seem to me that he's a fence sitter who also thinks women have it worse because motherfuckers got to get laid. I mean, I don't know.
Should I just stop there, or should I finish it?
Yeah, I'm just too angry at this. I hate the fucking fence sitting, fucking asshole licking bullshit that people like this do.
Yeah.
Oh. And then this is another thing that people like this do when they make these arguments. It's like they have a thesaurus next to them, and they're just going through it to find the biggest words they can throw at you. That's how you get these walls of text, these word salads, and then when you really read the whole thing, you realize that it could have been summarized in like a couple of sentences. But this person wants to wear you down with this long, roundabout bullshit argument.
Well,
it isn't really much of anything.
What I've done is I've offended his sensibilities because I've suggested that women are powerful and men are victims, and that women can actually have a role to play in saving men from vulnerability. And I did that deliberately because I know it would be provocative. And this is his way of very elaborately saying, "Ooh, woman, wait, man, stop, oh, oh, oh." And he's hiding it behind the stupid quasi-intellectualism. But that's all it is. He's just beating his chest and saying, "You stepped out. You stepped up a little bit too much there, lady. I don't like it." Okay, so my concern is these frustration, worries, and certainly reasonable problems that you folks have with our society are being framed solely men's issues, isolated from structures with hurt women as well, or are not informed by the wealth of feminist work that could possibly really help if you knew where to look. Or at worst, that members here are politically aligned in the wrong direction, that is, in denying the struggle and career oppression of women, especially women of color and trans women the world over. Yes, because third is denying the oppression or the struggles of trans women.
Of course, it's all about how many groups can I throw in this giant thing? I want to get likes from every subgroup of people in the oppression pancake stack. Let me see how many buzzwords I can use.
Yeah, all these struggles are connected whether you see it now or not. But the historical fact and current reality of women's oppression cannot and should not be denied. Get back in your role, bitch! For it is a dangerous idea. If you don't see it here and now in our relatively cushy, economically secure state, then look to non-Western societies where women cannot vote and are forced to perform reproductive labor, or to genocides where systematic mass rape was institutionalized to force economic propagation. Look at all these ugly things that are done to women, bitch! Get back in your fucking role as victim!
Yada, yada, yada. Alison.
And here's where sexist violence intersects with ethnic oppression and dynamics of power. Okay, incidentally, for anybody who's listening, the vast majority of victims of genocide are men. period, full stop. Or into today's culture where women who are sexually assaulted, and in the case of Aboriginal women in Vancouver who are raped and murdered, are largely viewed as suspect and ignored or doubted by legal and law enforcement structures that are very much guided by racist patriarchy. You know what happens to Aboriginal men? They're murdered at an even higher rate, like 3 times the rate, I believe. So I don't know about being raped because they've been murdered, so you don't really know. And oftentimes coroners won't look for signs of rape in male victims because they don't consider it.
But rape is worse than murder. But
it's like this is a guy who just cannot conceive of a world in which women are not the biggest victims. That is the role that women need to play for him to have a sane sense of his reality. Okay, hope some of that was useful. I encourage you all to gather as you please and to connect and heal. But if you are in opposition to feminism or if you deny women's oppression, I also encourage you to educate yourselves on feminism while avoiding social media and without dragging into it any baggage, fear, or reactionary tendencies that can be difficult to let go of when one feels politicized one way or another. Peace. Oh, you.
Oh, mother. God damn it.
Yeah, it's
no, like he might have, when he said peace, that was when he like slapped you with his like limp dick. That's essentially.
I'm flounced.
That's his way of saying I totally mic dropped this bitch. He probably screenshot it, shared with all his friends. Look what I did, guys.
Yeah.
Fuck out.
Put her back in her place. Whatever. No, Adrian, I'm not gonna play a victim for you. Sell rinse. Adrian, I agree in theory that men's issues like the ones I listed could be addressed from a feminist perspective. No, actually, they don't need to be addressed from any perspective. They just need to be addressed. Like, this is what baffles me. Like, you don't need a perspective to just say, hey, let's build something for men. Like, why do you need a perspective? Like, just build it! But in reality, they are not. Simply stating that problems are caused by the patriarchy is a non-argument. Even worse, it's generally used by feminists as a means of deflection. The idea being that men's issues are caused by the patriarchy and feminism fights against the patriarchy, therefore the success of feminism will eventually address men's issues. So by dismantling the one thing that benefits men, somehow that will benefit men. Like where are the dismantling, okay, of all the stages of dismantling patriarchy, where is build shelters, establish helplines, where is all that shit in there? Because it doesn't sound like it is in there. I mean, once you dismantle the patriarchy, once you get rid of all the gender roles, where are the shelters? And if men don't want shelters, where are the systems in place to help them get the help they need? Like, where are they? When you finish dismantling patriarchy, where are they? How did they come about? Did they just magic themselves into existence because men really, really thought hard and removed their own gender roles from their brains? Because of some sort of like Superman self-lobotomy? And then poof, like things materialize out of nothing? Anyway. The idea being that men's issues are caused by the patriarchy and feminism fights against the patriarchy, therefore the success of feminism will eventually address men's issues. This is a load of bunk, though. It's easy to point to specific tangible initiatives, efforts, lobbying, etc. that feminists do in regards to women's issues, but not all feminists doing the same for men's issues. No, there's significantly more specific tangible initiatives, efforts, and lobbying that feminists are doing to oppose men's issues. Which is not a problem in and of itself, since no one expects feminism to be responsible for solving or addressing men's issues. But feminists aren't allowed to claim that they are when they are doing nothing, or in some cases actually promoting efforts to make men's issues worse. For example, fighting against custody reform, fighting to preserve lifetime alimony, etc. Don't deny that women's issues exist, and even more. I don't deny that women's issues exist, and even more seriously in non-Western countries, although those same countries' men's issues are likewise more serious. But this event isn't claiming that women's issues don't exist, so there is no conflict there. Okay, I'm going to open up Adrian's comment. Oh, well, that's a lot.
Oh, God.
Okay, let me...
I am hearing you, but... I am hearing you, but...
I have heard from the event supporters that men's rights don't exist was just an ignorant thing to say, especially in the first world. In general, I am also sensing a lot of reactionary, divisive politics coming from supporters. It's worse than unhelpful. It's harmful. What the fuck? What? Maybe you're just sensing your own foot odor, which of course can be seen from those on the side of feminism as well. We are just humans after all. Above, you said something I'd like to respond to directly. The idea being that women's issues are caused by the patriarchy and feminism fights against the patriarchy. Therefore, the success of feminism will eventually address men's issues. Okay, so explain to us, Adrian, how fighting against the patriarchy will address men's issues. This doesn't frame feminism very well. Feminism is a school of thought that provides tools for addressing problems of gender and oppression. You don't need to address men's problems this way. You just need to build them the fucking services. I swear to God, these people are so far distant from an actual oppression that they no longer understand that actual oppression is unequal laws, is systematic bias that you can see in statistics. Actual oppression is not getting the same government and social resources as another group of people. Like, whatever. How is addressing problems of gender and oppression going to build anything for men? These tools have been and remain useful and effective for not just understanding these issues for both men and women, although of course women's issues have been studied much more, but also for articulating the problems to affect social change.
What?
Just build the fucking... just address the problems. I think what men need is to learn how feminism works, to understand and change these issues. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel with men's rights activism, feminism is knowledge and knowledge is power. Groups like these may be successful in that people will come and go feeling like they're not alone and therefore connected to a community, but the political power will only have weight insofar as a populist movement, i.e. the power is in the people, which is fine, but has none of the intellectual and historical background of success that feminism has.
Wait. Feminism has historically been successful? And it has power? And the men's rights activism does not? Did he just admit to that? Did I hear that right?
Apparently. Okay. Point. If men actually learned and used feminism as it is properly understood, there would be more feminist scholarship and activity addressing men's issues. Oh, fuck. Oh, we're just not doing feminism hard enough.
Oh my God. So wait. Feminist scholarship, do you even gynocentrism, bro? Do you realize that that's not, no. That's not.
Okay. Feminist scholarship and activity addressing men's issues. I would just like feminists to stop making them worse. However, men misunderstand feminism as an adversarial group with identifiable anti-male agendas. Well, that's because they have identifiable anti-man agendas. They may be true for some minority factions, the ones causing laws to change, claiming feminism, but that's not really feminism. Feminism thought, activism, and community can help you with the problems you have. Adrian, okay, this is my reply to Adrian. Adrian, so you can acknowledge men's issues as long as you recognize the role of victim ultimately belongs to women. Oh wait, she didn't reply to that. You know what? I'm done. We're good. I think
all right.
This stuff just repeats.
Yeah, right. No, what we need is to make men more like women, and they need to let go of their masculinity, and they need to educate themselves, and they need to realize their privilege, and they need to say 10 Hail Marys and
Help the patriarchy.
Yeah, and then pray at the altar of Saint Anita, and then after that, we will consider making them feminist allies, and they can continue to help women, and then through that, they can help themselves after they've realized the damage that they do just for having penises. I get it now. All right, I got nothing.
Yeah.
I have been well and truly exhausted.
Yeah.
The guy's word salad was like, that wasn't a word salad. That was like, when did that go up? Was that yesterday?
No, it was a couple of days.
Okay, because that was like some shit. that stoners make on 420 when they've like smoked a whole lot and they got the munchies and they just take everything in the fridge and they try to make a casserole out of it. That's what that was. That was a idea.
Yeah, except for sometimes with what's in the fridge, you can make a really good meal.
No, that's true. But
you can't put Nutella on everything.
Yeah.
I don't have Nutella in my house, Brian.
You can't make some sort of meat-based dish and then add Nutella to it. But you know what? If you don't like the result, you're just not Nutellaing hard enough, Karen.
Nutella makes me have to go to the hospital.
You're just not Nutellaing hard enough.
Yeah, you got a Nutella on the mountain.
You gotta Nutella harder.
I just need to eat Nutella with the right attitude, and then I won't be allergic to hazelnuts anymore.
Yes.
Yes.
You just gotta Nutella harder, Karen. That's your solution.
All right.
If you want men's issues to be addressed, you just need to be more feminist.
I just need to eat more hazelnuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Push. You won't be allergic anymore.
If I had to actually have a conversation with that person, or eat Nutella, I would eat the Nutella.
Okay, this is amazing though, because he took issues that men had, he went through a bunch of elaborate gymnastics to blame them on the patriarchy, and then he said all of your issues will be gone if you defeat the patriarchy.
Yeah, if you dismantle the system that actually benefits you, specifically you, over everyone else, then you will no longer have any problems. Men.
Yeah. Does this sound like bullshit to everyone else?
Even if you were to believe that the patriarchy is a system that benefits unjustly and undeservedly benefits men over everybody else, right? Even if you believe that, how could you believe that dismantling a system that benefits men will actually make men better off?
Emma, do you know what the answer to this is?
I think Emma's tongue knows.
Emma, can you taste the patriarchy?
Her tongue seems sentient, actually. It seems like it's got a mind of its own.
Well, thank you, Emma, for all of that intellectually stimulating and just plain stimulating feedback. So she for he.
She for he.
Tomorrow. Saturday, yes.
Saturday. Entertain the possibility that men are not all powerful, and the buck does not necessarily stop with them. Entertain the utterly disempowering notion that women might have some ability in society or to affect change in society, and thus have some responsibility to help out their fellow alien travelers on this little blue spinning globe.
I think that would be a wonderful idea. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to
I have to write that fucking speech.
Do you guys want to take bets on whether or not there will be any fire alarms pulled or any shenanigans?
I doubt it.
No shenanigans?
I doubt there will be any protests. I doubt there will be any fire alarms.
Okay.
There might be an angry letter written in a week after we're gone by the SFU feminist constituency, like there was after my event. But we don't.
How dare you tell women that they have any ability to affect change in society? Don't you know we're trying to empower them here?
Fuck face.
Fuck face.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Are we?
I'll do a very brief show. So if you like what you hear, if you'd like our jocularity, our unusual approach to what we do, yeah, just consider throwing a few shekels our way. We're not gypsies, but we do enjoy the shekels.
If you like my halo.
If you like
I
her
tur-
halo.
I turned my halo on.
Oh yeah.
www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio.
We got effects. We got special effects.
Yeah, we're making everything better. Like that's what we do. We build. We actually
That's
build
right.
something. That's what we do.
That's right.
All
Okay,
right.
time to go.